Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome to another Sunday night live stream right here on Texas Football. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, joined by fellow lifetime Longhorns, the man, the myth, the legend, Bobby Burton, and the young phenom, CJ Vogel, joining us today as well. We got a lot to get into on the show. Man, CJ, he's always working hard for you guys. He was actually down at the Texas High School Coaches Association. Actually, we'll get some of his thoughts. Actually, Steve Sarkisian was down there speaking to the Texas High School coaches, so we'll hear what he had to say from my man CJ. Also, we'll get into some recruiting news, notes, and nuggets. I know you guys always have top recruiting at the top of mind, so we'll get to that. Also, your questions, your comments, we'll answer and address as many of them as we can. So throw them out there before the show is done. Super chats, we'll jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time. You know how that goes. We've also got some other stories, some questions I want to ask the guys here tonight on the panel. Hook 'em. I'm glad all you guys could join us from wherever you guys are joining us. Yes, San Antonio, all over the world. The own Texas football family keeps growing and growing every day. All right, how you doing, gentlemen? Bobby, what's up with you, brother? It's been a while since I talked to you. How's everything going?
Man, I'm just getting over the hangover I had from Dallas. I mean, that was 4 days of. I tried to explain that to my wife. I was like, man, I felt like my head was on a swivel the whole time. You know, go here, do this, go that. I mean, I felt like she had a list of honeydews for me. You know, that's what those 4 days seemed like. But getting over that, back to work. I saw CJ down at the coaching school. That's a 2-day event that I think 10,000 plus high school coaches go to each and every year. It's a tremendous event, unlike any other around the country, and it's strictly for state of Texas high school coaches. It is one of a kind. That's happening right now. Getting ready for recruiting. You mentioned, Rod, the 24th, the dead period ends for recruiting. So we'll see guys on campus on Thursday. CJ's got some names and notes of some breaking news that Jerry Hamilton had yesterday on that. And then, you know, we're just 10 days away now from the start of fall practice.
Wow.
And they're actually back on the field in 10 days.
That's crazy.
And I know we're doing this countdown. I think we're at like 41. We're like at Nathan Vasher days away or whatever, Rod. But my point being is we're literally just 10 days away. It's been one of those off seasons I wanted to end for so long, but we're finally getting there. Media days was a part of that. And so excited to get going.
Hey, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like this is one of the quickest, fastest off seasons we've had in a long time. Maybe because the team was really good and you're looking forward to the off season because all the draft picks and all the great headlines in the off season, the video game and Arch Manning and the spring game. So maybe, I don't know, CJ, am I off about that? This feel like this off season went by real quick to you?
Yeah, it certainly does feel like we've kind of skated the way through some of the summer. It helps obviously when you play into January.
Yes.
That extension of the 2023 season.
That's true.
Let's do that. Hey, CJ, let's do that again this year. Why don't we all play till January again this year?
Listen, I hate the offseason, so this is great. Play as long as you can. Let's, throw in another bye week just so I can have extra football. It feels longer, right? So, no, I'm with you, Rod. It definitely feels like it's been, one, more enjoyable this offseason, and two, we've been flying through it as well.
That's probably what it is. When you have a bad season, the off season feels like a whole lot longer because you're reliving it time and time again. Reliving last season was fun for Longhorn fans. So time flies when you're having fun. And Longhorn fans,
it's not fun playing in San Antonio on December 26th, right? Stretch that out to mid-January if you can again. That'd be great for us.
All right, CJ, I want to get your thoughts, and we'll get into some recruiting. I know you guys want to talk recruiting, so we'll get you some recruiting updates. But you were down at the Texas High School Coaches Association for their the coaches convention down there, and I hear great things about it all the time. I'm trying to sneak into that thing one day because I hear it is just football porn for somebody who loves football. But CJ, Sark was down there speaking to the Texas high school coaches. Can you give us some tidbits and nuggets about what you obtained from down there just visiting the coaches?
Yeah, man, Bobby, you mentioned 10,000 people that might be selling it short in terms of coaches across the state of Texas that come in for this event. It was massive. That was my first time making the trip down to check out the coaches convention. They call it a coaches school. So so many ballrooms, so many meeting rooms, all of which filled with college coaches providing lessons, high school coaches collaborating with one another. It's a really cool deal. Obviously, Sarkisian was down there. Mike Elko will speak tomorrow. Joey McGuire, a number of other big-time Division I coaches inside the state of Texas. They all make the trip down to San Antonio every year for this event. Big deal. But Sarkisian was out there today and addressed some of the media members, had about a 15, 20-minute time with the media just to kind of, convey where he was in this part of the offseason. As things are flying by for us, Rod, it's going very quickly for this coaching staff and will certainly ramp up over the next 10 days when they return to on-field activities. Of course, the number one thing that I took away was Sarkisian was asked about recruiting and what's it like when, perhaps you stumble over a hurdle or so when recruiting and, you see some big recruits head elsewhere. How does that kind of, sit within the staff behind closed doors? And I thought it was really interesting, right? We've been saying it all along. This staff, they do a very good job closing late in cycles, going out, adding a Colin Simmons, adding an Anthony Hill, flipping a Kelvin Banks. Those are the guys that they work late into the cycles with. And Sarkisian said it straight up. He said, yep, I don't panic in June and July. I'll come back and we can circle back to this conversation in December if we need to. However, we've been pretty good at getting the guys that we want later in the cycle. So no need for panic right now for Steve Sarkisian. I think that confidence is exuding a little bit right now with that Texas staff as well, even with some of these, summer bumps and bruises that they've taken at times, sometimes this summer.
So because Brandon Harris also said something similar in a recent interview, right? Not worried about where we stand right now. We believe after people see basically what we're going to do during the season, they'll be able to close a little bit better. So is this the MO of Sark? Is this just his recruiting MO, or is this him adapting to the momentum or lack thereof? Is this how he's done it in the past, Bobby? Is this what it is?
It is what it is.
Okay.
He does that quite a bit. Jerry likes to say all the time about how Texas wasn't, Anthony Hill was committed to A&M this time during the year that he was coming out, right? Xavier Filsaime hadn't even got a scholarship offer from Texas at this point in time last year. And now he's on the roster. Things like that happen. Sark is not a guy that overemphasizes June and July right now because signing day isn't until December. And I do think that part of that is Sark bets on himself a little bit. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that is he's not scared to go into October, November with a few commitments down. And the reason why is because he thinks he can close on some guys late that may be available because of, I don't know, a coaching change like at Oregon. He mentioned Kelvin Banks in that presser today, CJ, that you were at, right? Yeah. And how that Kelvin at this time, his senior year of high school was committed to Oregon. Wasn't even thinking about, he was thinking about Texas, but not the team for him. And so I think that Sark doesn't want to overreact to that. At the same time, I think he realizes he can't go from 0 commitments to 25 in 2 months. And so he thinks he's at a pretty good spot right now. I think with 15 commitments, he'll get up to 18 or 19 prior to the season. And then he wants to see how they play as a senior. I thought that was one of the more interesting aspects Sark talked about today, Rod and CJ. Sark was asked whether or not he wanted to have a summer signing period, or people are talking about the summer signing period. And Sark was like, I want to see guys play as a senior.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I did too. That was very good, CJ, in my eyes, because that kind of falls in line with what I've been thinking. If you sign guys in July, why are they even going to play their senior year of high school football? You'll find out real quick whether or not they love it or not, and whether or not they've improved. Look, part of his Sark talked about development being such a core part of football in general, especially at that age, Rod. Yeah. You've done it from your junior year of high school to your senior year. You're still growing.
Yep.
You're growing physically and mentally, and much less when you get to college. And yet they want to try to move signing day up to July. And even Jerry has been an advocate for that at some level. But I'm not. And I agree with Sark's take on that.
It's good stuff. No, and I heard Brandon Harris say something similar. So that's definitely their mantra. That's their MO. That's what they believe in as a staff in terms of the personnel acquisition. Is that, hey, we're betting on ourselves. We'll finish strong, and that recruiting class will reflect that.
There's one other thing I find really interesting. Bobby, you kind of sparked a little thought in my brain with that comment about wanting to see guys in their senior season, kind of getting an idea of what kind of characters they are. Sarkisian also mentioned, he goes, if we're recruiting kids before they even get to campus and they want to commit, how do we even know what kind of people they are? How do we know what their character is? How do we know if we don't ever meet the parents? Because that's a big part of understanding what kind of prospects and players and people that will be joining the Texas program. Of course, you can do that at the college level. I sat in on one of the, kind of coaching conventions, conversations from a wide receivers coach in the state of Texas. And, he basically was saying, anybody in the high school range, y'all are the real coaches because y'all don't get to choose who you get to play, right?
Yeah.
Whoever signs up, whoever has a helmet day one, you're on the team and you just got to make do with what you got. I get to go out there and handpick whoever I want to have in my class and in my program. And Sarkisian, I think it's really interesting the way that this staff goes out and they recruit, right? They want to recruit great players. We know that they have. They also recruit great people and guys who give that extra percentage. I look back a little bit at that 2023 class. Did you know they had 12 state champions that won 16 different state titles?
Wow.
That's pretty remarkable. And that's been a continued trend that we've seen in 2024. They had a handful this year already. I mean, KJ Lacey, he's got a state championship under his belt already. So I look at it, James Simon, Jackson Christian, other state champions. So that's the kind of character that they go after, guys that put in the extra work, are great football players, and good people above everything else. So it was really interesting to see how that all kind of tied together today at the coaches convention.
Yeah, good stuff there, CJ. Hey,
UT boy, happy birthday.
UT boy. I love that. Happy birthday. Hey, family, hook 'em. I'm 49 today. Happy birthday, UT boy. Happy birthday, brother. All donations and gifts are to be sent to the Texas One Fund. That's right. Supporting La Familia. Have a great week. See y'all in the morning. Hook 'em for life. Thank you, UT boy. We love you, brother. We mean that from the bottom of my heart, man. Thank you for supporting us. And happy birthday. Hope you're making the most of it. Hope you're making the best out of it. UT boy, who Daniel? I spoke to Jonte briefly Thursday evening for about 5 minutes. He said, quote, we can put up 40 or 50 against anyone. Wow.
I like it.
40 or 50. I got to find out what they averaged last year in points. Do you know what Texas averaged last year? Around 35 points per game?
I thought it was 33 or 34.
Yeah, it's on 34 points per game. Okay. Yeah. Talking about add another touchdown in the SEC. Going into the SEC and adding a touchdown, that would be quite the feat. That'd be quite the feat. I'd be looking for that, though. No question. Hey, UT boy, no doubt, though. Happy birthday, brother. We appreciate you, man. Hope you're having a great one. Hope it's the best one yet. No doubt about that. All right. Getting back to we do have a couple of questions here. We got a couple of recruiting-related questions. I know some of you out there. This one actually comes from Doug. Doug Haywood. Thank you very much, Doug, for the question. We appreciate it. Says, good evening, gentlemen. How can Texas combat the NIL and intrigue recruits to still come to Texas outside of NIL? Do recruits still care about the school they are going to or just the money? Thank you very much, Doug, for the question. I would say Brandon Harris was asked about this as well in that same interview, and he echoed something similar, very similar sentiment to Sark when Sark talks about NIL, that they can't be fully focused on NIL and that's it. Like, he wants guys that want to come to Texas. Yes, NIL will be a part of the opportunities that you'll gain, but they want them to understand all of the opportunities that will be presented to them as becoming a member of the Texas football team, not just the NIL opportunity. So I get the feeling, it seems like they're implying without saying it, guys, that they're not going to be the highest bidder for every prospect.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Which is good in my opinion.
Yeah. Look, the reality of it is, if you put that comment back up there, Matt, our producer, I appreciate it, because I think there's a couple of issues here. So, Doug, there's a little bit of a misconception right now that Texas isn't already combating that successfully to a degree, because to Rod's point, Texas isn't always the highest bidder. And even if they are, these guys have multiple choices. So, and let's just take it for example. Say you had a job offer for $50,000 a year, and you had the same job offer at 5 different places, and they're all going to pay you $50,000 a year. That's kind of how it works. They're not, people aren't just dramatically overpaying one player or another. It's all similar money, virtually. And so you're really selling the school alongside that, and the education, and all that being part of the University of Texas can bring with it. And so it's not just money. It can be, everybody can be at $50,000 or $75,000 a piece. And I know those aren't necessarily the numbers, but you have to sell the school too, or else that's just going to be a number and they're going to go somewhere else because they can get that number somewhere else.
Yeah.
There's 130 schools right now in the FBS. Of course, only 50 or so, 60 or so play in one of the major 4 conferences. But all of that being said, there are the teams out there that have money in NIL and are doing that. You've got to make Texas an attractive place regardless of money. It's not about money. It's got to be about education. It's got to be about, what can you get out of Texas and what can Texas get out of you? Can you win games here? I mean, I was listening to Peyton Manning. Y'all were talking about the Brandon Harris interview. Over the weekend, I listened to a Peyton Manning interview, and he was talking a little bit about Arch and everything. And he was talking about his own recruitment. And I actually covered Peyton Manning's recruitment when I was a kid, when I was just starting in the business. I was even younger than you, CJ, actually.
Wow.
And it came down to Tennessee, Florida, and Ole Miss for him. He visited Notre Dame, I believe, and maybe Michigan too. But he said he was always going to play in the SEC. That's what he and his dad had told me when I was covering it as well. But the thing that caught my attention, and the reason why he wanted to go to Tennessee and or Florida, he wanted to play in the SEC, and he wanted to play in an area where football was important 365 days a year. He goes, it just gives you more drive. You know, if football isn't all that important all year long at a school, that's not where you want to go. And so Texas fans need to know that when we're talking about NIL and the importance of it, it's not just NIL, it's the whole package. It's the fact that you go to a game in Austin, Texas, and there's 100,000 people in the stands and, 2 or 3 million watching from home, right? Texas is not Baylor or Texas Tech in that regard. And that does matter to these guys. You're hearing about it from a guy that was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and whose nephew is now at Texas, and in part because of all that Texas could bring, not just the NIL. Because look, Arch Manning could have got NIL anywhere, right?
Yep.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. You want all of it. You want to be able to offer all of it to kids.
And you want the guys, it's almost like if the young man comes in and all he wants to talk about is NIL and doesn't want to ask about the academics at all, or, the social scene at all, or any other aspects of being a student at the University of Texas, then maybe that's Jeff Banks always talks about, we look for signs.
Yeah, red flags.
Okay, right. If the guy's coming in, all he wants to talk about is NIL, not saying he's not a great player. He's obviously a great player. That's why he's at Texas, but maybe he's not compatible with the culture. But the guys that are coming in are like, hey, man, can you tell me about how you can hook me up with the culinary scene here in Austin? Or, those are the kind of guys you want because they're looking for other, benefits of the experience, not just the NIL dollars. So I think I will say that it is a balancing act these days. And I think Sark and staff are doing a good job. It's harder than ever, man, to build that kind of culture. And I think they're doing a good job.
Hey, Rod, I will say this too. I mean, Texas has passed on some guys, or at least one guy in particular, where he came to town saying, "Oh, it's not NIL has nothing to do with my recruitment." Yeah, all this stuff, other stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
He left and went home, and as soon as he got home, oh, it's all about NIL. Texas just said,
There you go.
Go to the next guy. And so that didn't happen in the 2025 class, this class, talking about a previous one. But it's happened in reverse too.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Tough to navigate these days. Getting back to the questions here. Jason Perez. This one's for you, CJ. We're going to throw it out there for you. He wants to know, Hook 'em from Hutto, Texas here. What's up with Jonah Williams? Anybody else visiting unofficially?
Yeah, we got a few visitors that we've confirmed for this weekend, or for Thursday, excuse me. Jonah Williams is one of them. We're expecting him to make the trip to Austin. Of course, saying that now and actually seeing him on campus a little bit, it could be a little bit of a different thing. But, of course, expecting him on campus. This is obviously a new development for Jonah Williams, a guy that we haven't necessarily been, kind of tying together with Texas this cycle, right? It's been kind of a roller coaster with the 5-star out of Galveston Ball High School. He is a 2-sport athlete at the next level. I actually have a few messages out to some folks in the baseball community to see how much of a chance it actually is that, one, he plays baseball at the next level, or two, plays football at the next level, because he is that talented. It appears to be in the world of baseball right now. Throws 94, really, really talented. He's down in Atlanta right now for a wood bat tournament. So gives you an idea of the kind of prospect he is. Obviously, we're watching his tape here and shooting down the field right there. But he's expected on campus. I'll go through a few names that we also are expecting. Michael Terry, the 5-star athlete out of Alamo Heights in San Antonio. Nick Townsend, KJ Lacey, Dia Bell, some of the commits coming in as well. Chris Stewart, the most recent 2026 commit out of Houston area. He's expected to come in as well. So a couple of big names that Texas will be hosting. I don't think this will be as a large an event as we've seen previously. Obviously, the January Junior Day, some of the visit days in the spring. This won't be one of those outings in my eyes. It'll be more, kind of intimate, if you will, when it comes to the crowd size, who's in town, and, of course, what the staff will be able to pitch now that these guys are getting prepared for senior seasons across the board. Another guy I wanted to mention real quick, J.J. Han out of the West Coast, California, by way of Germany. He's exchange kid that made the way over to California. Texas is taking a deeper look here. I do believe he's expected to make it in Thursday as well for an unofficial with the Longhorns. Interesting, though, he's the first. He's taking his first unofficial since the dead period started to Texas after not taking an official visit to Texas in the summer months.
And he is a defensive tackle, 6'6", 275, CJ.
Yes.
Big guy. Hey, Rod, first time watching Jonah Williams here. What do you think?
I have not seen this young man, and I'm impressed. I mean, he is. It almost feels like the way I'm looking at it feels like I'm watching him, and like he's sped up a little bit the way he plays the game.
He's got some acceleration for as big as he is.
He does. How big is he? He looks long too.
6'3".
6'3" and 215 is what they say.
He does not move like a 6'3" guy. Like he does not. He is fluid for a guy that's 6'3". Gets downhill. Got really fluid hips. And he can run. Like he can. Like his straightaway speed is elite. Does he run track or just baseball and football? Look at
there you go. That's a little. I think he just plays. I just think he plays baseball. But CJ neglected to mention, yes, he throws 94. I know it sounds weird, but a lot of high school pitchers, like 100 or 200 of them throw 94 in the high school ranks. Not many of them are left-handed. He has that going for him, too.
And he tracks the ball really well, too. He's got great ball skills. He's a ball hawk.
Watching him kind of range the outfield whenever he's out there, it's a treat. It's special.
Got it. Well, Jim Schlossnagle should have y'all were talking earlier about the offseason going fast. One of them was Jim Schlossnagle helped us take up about
Yes, he did. that was good.
We got the A&M. We got the A&M catastrophe and Texas taking over. That helped about a week or two. Hey guys, I need to say thank you and want to say thank you to our sponsor of the Sunday night live stream. Like the recruiting business, the mortgage industry also has a star rating system. And Joe Brown, he's a 5-star. He has more than 3 decades of experience helping more than 4,000 families finance homes and investment properties. Joe's a lifelong Longhorn fan with 2 degrees from the University of Texas and has helped many former UT athletes and professors with their real estate financing. He works with Southside Bank, which has been based in Texas for more than 60 years, but also can do mortgages in most other states. Give him a call, 512-663-4744. If you're looking for a mortgage or a loan, that's 512-663-4744. Get the guy you can depend on, veteran mortgage professional, Joe Brown.
Thank you very much to Joe Brown for all of his support and sponsoring the Sunday night live stream. UT Boy's feeling good on his B-Day. Happy B-Day, 49 years old. Diaper NIL for Baby Babers. She is very grateful. Thank you very much, UT Boy. We appreciate that. No question. The diapers are expensive. And she's moving up. So every other month, I feel like we're moving up in diaper size all the time. So thank you, UT Boy. Very kind. And happy birthday to you. No doubt about that. All right, getting back to some of the questions here. This is an interesting one from Burnt Orange Horn. He says, whatever happened to the original idea of student athletes striking their own NIL deals? And I'm assuming he means like negotiating their own, like doing it yourself. Yeah, because they have representatives now. Like basically they're agents, but they're not agents with these student athletes. They're agents for the NFL, but they're representatives in a way. So they have that to kind of help you negotiate these deals. But now it's all but depending on the state law, because every state law is a little bit different as relates to NIL. The schools now can be a little bit more involved in helping to engineer and really get these NIL deals going. I'm going to do some more research. I have no idea how involved the schools can be and the different collectives and directives and how that happens and how hands-on they are. I know you guys talk to Open Doors, I believe there, Bobby, and I know they're probably the most insightful institution or company when it comes to tracking NIL activity, because they've been doing it since the inception of NIL. What do they have to say about how these deals are struck, pretty much?
Well, I think the NCAA had no clue that collectives would come around. I mean, they were oblivious. They didn't know that things like collective would happen. They just, we'll let a guy that's a wide receiver who also happens to be have 1,000 Instagram followers. We'll let him sell message board posts or post to his Instagram, right?
Yep.
They had no clue what they were getting into, and it showed by their actions. It was expected to be simply this: athletes striking their own NIL deals. But when you have, I don't know, Nike out there doing individual NIL deals, or their owner of one of the majority owners of Nike doing them, how are teams supposed to compete on an even basis? And they can't. And frankly, A&M did some NIL deals before others, and I think it spurred Texas on as well as others around the country. And we look at it, and it's gone the way of the dodo bird, this whole idea, to Burnt Orange Horn's point, as it being a primary driver. Because what they're going to say now, and what's getting ready to be pushed through the courts, it looks like, is that name, image, and likeness also means on a television screen when they're playing the game. You see what I'm saying? And they're going to get a percentage of the proceeds.
Yeah.
And so, to Burnt Orange Horn's point, I think that's where it's going to evolve to and has evolved to. That doesn't mean NIL is going away altogether. I think that the numbers will change quite significantly in a way that allows collectives to still operate and really focus on making, I don't know, like Quinn Ewers' deal with EA Sports, right, for the game. Focus on those, or helping local car dealerships, etc., get their name.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right, thanks for the question, Burnt Orange Horn. We appreciate it. Blake Bowman wants to know, Rod, Bobby, and CJ, do we have any information on who will be the top 3 receivers? Oh, first world problems here. Love it.
Kidding.
Yeah.
I think after this past week in Dallas, Bobby, I think whether it starts the year as a top 3 guy, Ryan Wingo, based off of what we heard from Quinn Ewers, from what we heard from Steve Sarkisian, that's a guy that's going to figure into this rotation a heavy bit, right? pretty remarkable how much we've heard from him since the spring into the summer into currently, just how often we've heard about the 5-star freshman out of St. Louis. I was really, really encouraged by Quinn Ewers' remarks at media days, and then Sarkisian again to come out in his opening statement and say, yeah, that's a guy that's going to play for us a lot this year. There's the writing on the wall. What's going to be interesting is what that first group looks like, right? Right now, I'd have to imagine it's Isaiah Bond. I think Matthew Golden is in that conversation to be one of the first 3 guys out there. How quickly will Silas Bolden get acclimated to the offense, right? He's been throwing every day with the quarterbacks in town. Obviously, when Arch Manning and Quinn Ewers went down to the Manning Passing Academy, it was Trey Owens that was running the ship in Austin for about a week. So they've had arms down here. Who's going to be those 3 guys? I think it comes with the transfers and perhaps Jonte Cook, but we're going to have to see after these first 2 scrimmages to start August and then roll into week 1.
Rod's right. First world problems. I think the question I have after listening to everyone is, and I'm not talking just about you, CJ, but the guys at media days, even guys like Fozzie Whitaker who are at practices a bunch. Fozzie's doing some stuff, I think, for ESPN this fall. We had him on a show, Rod, and I know you talked to Fozzie quite a bit with Third and Longhorn and stuff. The thing that keeps coming back to me, the names that I've heard are Cook, Golden, Wingo, and Bolden. And that leaves out Isaiah Bond. I have not heard as much about that. Doesn't mean that he's not going to play. I mean, look, some people think he's a first-round draft pick this year.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily leave out DeAndre Moore. I'm just telling you the names I'm hearing more of. Mm-hmm. I've heard that Matthew Golden is extraordinarily reliable. And that kind of maybe puts him above some other guys, and he's also older. Ryan Wingo is a little bit of a prodigy. You don't want to, prodigy is a great word to use, Rod. Jonte Cook has more experience than the other guys in the offense and is also very talented. And then, we'll see what happens with Silas Bolden and whether or not his size is a ultimate issue in the SEC. Because I will say this, there are a lot of guys his size that have made it in played, but they are typically, they're not that small. I'll put it that way. I mean, and if they are, they run 10-2 or 10-3, not 10-6.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, I would not say, I would be lying to everybody, and I think everybody on this chat, and even Steve Sarkisian right now, would be lying to you if he could say, these are my 3 right now. Because I think Ryan Wingo is such a wild card, right? We hear he's coming on, by the way. We continue to hear good things. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. But he's a wild card. You don't know if he's going to be ready by game 1 or game 6, right? Now, you want to get him reps in between then, but what game is he ready for? Because when he was ready, it may be, whoever he takes over for may just get leaped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then Jonte's different and Golden's different. They're all pieces of the puzzle. And I don't know how Sark, one of the things that Sark said that I thought was really interesting in one of the availabilities, he's looking for matches, like which groups are good together.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So he's not just looking for, these are the starters. He's also looking to see who pairs well with one another, who runs the screens well together.
Yeah, you know what? That's perfect, Bobby. I'll tell you what, that's perfect. I got a stat for you real quick, just to add to what you're saying, because I think you hit the nail on the head here. I was looking at screen target rates for the 2024 wide receiver class. All right, and you know who are 2 in the top 4? Jordan Whittington and Xavier Worthy. They're both in the top 4 of the 2024 wide receiver class in career. If you look at just career screen target rate. To your point, Sark wants certain wide receivers to play certain roles within his offense. That's why he makes all of them learn every position. all right, in the wide receiver room. You got to learn all of them, X, Y, Z. You got to learn every position. That's part of the circle of trust thing. You were just talking about Matthew Golden. He's probably shown Sark, hey, I can master all these positions. That's like he's dependable, like that guy. All right. And that may be something that, I don't know, maybe stunts the developmental rate of a guy like Ryan Wingo. But you're right about Ryan Wingo being the wild card. Sark doesn't give a damn. If you're good enough, you're old enough. He'll play as a true freshman if you're good enough. And we don't know what the rate of development is going to be for Ryan Wingo. If he just picks it up, the light goes off quickly, and he can master multiple positions, he's going to play. He's going to play. He's a prodigy. We talked about this when Tom Herman wanted to keep Bijan off the field. Like, he's a prodigy. When you got a prodigy in school, you skip him up 2 grades. You don't keep him in there so he can make all the other kids feel bad about themselves. No, you skip him up 2 grades, challenge him. And that'll bring out the best in him. I think Sark feels the same way about elite freshmen. He's like, nah, I'm sorry. I'm skipping you ahead a couple of grades, Kelvin Banks. Xavier Ward, skipping you ahead a couple of grades. That could happen for Ryan Wingo, to your point, Bobby, about being the wild card.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, Anthony Hill last year, he didn't start first game.
Yeah, he didn't. You're right.
You know, and so I feel like if we try to go into it and saying these are the definite guys, I wonder. And I'll say another name that makes me just DeAndre Moore.
I know. I feel bad.
I think he is a baller.
Yep.
Like, I think he's got a little understanding of how to play the game. Now he is younger than the other ones, except for Jonte Cook and Ryan Wingo, but Cook, Bond, Bolden, Golden, you know, he's a little younger than those guys. But man, I just get the feeling he's got an idea of how to play football. And so how do you keep him off the field?
Yeah. The one thing I continue to look back on with what Sarkisian likes to do with his wide receivers, and obviously the way in which his scheme fits his wide receivers, is who's going to be that guy that is the lead block on those quick screens, RPO looks, you know, who's going to be that guy that comes in and cracks a linebacker. Last year, obviously, it was Jordan Whittington. We saw the highlights almost weekly in what he was able to do when the ball was not in his hands. Who's going to be that guy right now? I lean towards Matthew Golden. I think that's one of his strengths in his game, is playing without the football. He's one of the larger bodies that you have in that room right now at 195 pounds. Again, only one guy is over 200 pounds at the wide receiver room. I know the big bodies isn't necessarily what Sarkisian likes to go for, but at some point when you're asked to, you know, come crack a middle linebacker in the SEC, you're going to have to, you know, need some weight there if you get what I'm saying here. And that's Matthew Golden in my eyes. So, Rod, to your point about Sarkisian using his wide receivers in certain looks or to do certain things on the field, to me, that's where I think he gets the nod in that starting 3 to begin the year. Of course, this could all change in the next month or so. But right now, if I'm predicting the future, if I got my crystal ball in front of me, I can't imagine a starting 3 rotation without him in it at the moment.
That's a good point. And that would back up Bobby's point about the lineup. Guys having different roles within that lineup. One guy's a deep threat. One guy's working the boundary. One guy's working, you know, the slot, that kind of thing. So that's interesting. Really good stuff. UT Boy wants to get in on the conversation. Says, Jonte is in the circle straight up. Y'all need to, hey, I will say this about every time I remember the guys at the combine when they were being asked about players who were obviously still on the team. I want to say damn near every last one of them brought up Jonte Cook.
Hey, Fozzie did too.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, look, I think Jonte Cook is a good leader potentially on this team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, because he cares about football. He does his work. He doesn't get sidetracked. You know what I mean? There's so many things that can happen nowadays off the football field with money as part of that process, right?
That's real.
For young guys, that they can get sidetracked. And Fozzie was like, look, I think he can actually be a leader. That's the kind of guy he is on the practice field. He's always going hard. Mm-hmm. Not a guy that takes time off.
Good stuff. Good stuff, guys. All right, getting back to it. Thank you, UT Boy, for the super chat. We appreciate that. He also says here, CJ, it's my man UT Boy, when Jonte shines, no joining from the bandwagon, my brother. Jump on right now. There's plenty of room on that Jonte Cook bandwagon right now because everybody's talking about Bolden and Golden and Bond and everybody else. So you want a good seat on the Jonte Cook bandwagon. Now is the time, CJ. Don't be dumb.
Now I know. Hey, I get it. I get it. We got a month and about 40 days before week 1.
I know.
I'll build up that hype. I'm ready for it.
I can't wait, though. I can't wait to see what Sark does with this wide receiving core. I'm glad he went on the record to say he's going to expand the rotation. Now, how does that look? How does that expansion look? How does that target share look? Longhorn fans having fun with that discussion. All right, getting back to it, Bobby says, Bobby _Batronic says, bold gold bond to relieve Sark's deep ball itch. Well done. That is brilliant wordplay there, sir. You're like Kendrick Lamar up here, man. That's some brilliant wordplay there.
We need to bring that up with Jerry's Manscaped commercials in the morning.
I actually love, because Sark, so at one point, Sark was addicted to the deep ball. I used to always say he was addicted to it. His first couple of years, guys, he was throwing that thing. Remember the Oklahoma State game? That's probably the best example of it. He would throw it so much, essentially throw Texas out of games and out of drives for deep ball. I would remember the Chappelle Show character, Tyrone Biggums? I would describe Sark at times like Tyrone Biggums. He was really feeding for that deep ball. But now he has done a great job of evolving as a coach. You can see now he's more judicious. By the way, he wants to bring it back. The deep ball is only going away because it's hurt his team a little bit. And he's realized that. He's curtailed his deep ball obsession. He wants to bring it back. And this wide receiving core, guys, you could have the deep ball coming back because Quinn's getting better at it. Can he find the chemistry with one of these guys? I think most people feel like if you didn't have the chemistry with Xavier Worthy, fastest human being to ever go to the combine, and A.D. Mitchell, also Tyrone Biggum, give me that deep ball, baby. Then it's going to be hard to have that chemistry with these newer wide receivers who just came on. But, don't sleep on that deep ball coming back. You might have a higher deep ball rate this year than you've had last year, actually. It's possible.
I think so.
Yeah. All right, getting back to it here. Oh, Football Junkie. Thank you, Football Junkie, for the super chat. We appreciate you as always. How much confidence do you guys have in those 2024 defense overall? Ooh, okay. This is good. It's a good question. Can I just bring up one thing, though? Because Nick Saban brought this up, too. And Nick Saban thinking like I'm thinking, because I've brought it up several times, the cornerback spot opposite Malik Muhammad. Nick Saban, CJ said that was the only personnel issue that Texas had, basically, that really concerned him, was that cornerback spot opposite of Malik Muhammad. On defense, is there any other thing on defense that concerns you? Because Nick Saban said that was the one that he thinks possibly could derail the development and a leap for this defense.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. That was the one spot he went to, right? It wasn't linebacker depth. It wasn't the defensive line. I think Texas has revamped that safety room and the edge room enough to be considered strengths on this Texas defense in 2024. For him to mention the opposite corner as the one area on this team that he's maybe having a question about at the moment, it should give you a pretty good indication of, one, the depth of the defensive line, but two, the quality, right? Nick Saban, above anybody else in college football, understands and knows what good defensive line play looks like, right? I think right now he understands and is seeing those kind of bodies that Texas has accumulated over the offseason on that defensive line room and says, yeah, they might not be the stallions of, Tavondre Sweater or Byron Murphy, but they're certainly thoroughbreds, right? They'll get you to the finish line at some point. So there's certainly a lot of experience there. We've talked about the production and the snap counts that these guys have played over their careers that have joined the Texas team. Talking about THSCA, obviously Jermaine Lole, Bill Norton, the guys that have come in, but also Alfred Collins, right? Vernon Broughton. These guys have all played a lot of snaps. I think you can go 6 or 7 deep on the interior defensive line. It's all about finding who's going to be the guys that you put on the field when it's a 3rd and 1 in a crucial situation right now. So we'll see who those guys end up being. But I think it's a good point that, hey, it's not a concern from the outside when it comes to Nick Saban, the godfather of college football right now, and everything interior, defensive line-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my take on it is a little bit different. How much confidence overall do I have? I think it's a B defense. I thought last year was an A minus for most of the year. They don't have those 2 early round picks in the middle. You just don't. You don't have a 3-year starter at middle linebacker. I do think they're going to be better in the secondary. And while Nick Saban did mention that, Steve Sarkisian's counter to that is we've also got to help those guys. by getting better at pass rush. I do think they've gotten better at pass rush this offseason. Not only are Barron Sorrell and Ethan Burke both back, they've added Colin Simmons as well as Trey Moore. So I think that people are getting caught up on the secondary a little too much, including Nick Saban, to be honest, and it's still not as focused on the defensive front. I'm worried about up the middle, defensive tackle, middle linebacker, because while Anthony Hill I think is a little bit of a prodigy himself, Rod, CJ, he's also young at the position. He got to freelance a lot last year because he wasn't always playing that true. Now he's taken over for Jalen Ford, who wasn't a freelancer, And so my concern of the defense still is up the middle. I'm not as concerned about the secondary, maybe as others, because I think they're going to have a better pass rush. Yeah. I do believe that.
I love what you said about the freelancer, because it is true that some coaches realize this. And it was the perfect example, actually, is Earl Thomas and Blake Gideon. There's a freelancer and a stabilizer. If you have a freelancer, you better have a stabilizer out there, too, that can help the freelancer, kind of at least operate within some parameters. And then so I agree with you. Last year, Anthony Hill, the young Anthony Hill, was kind of the freelancer. You had a stabilizing force there with Jalen Ford. This year, you're going to ask Anthony Hill to be the stabilizing force and probably also be a guy that you can freelance a little bit. But then who's going to be the stabilizing force for him when you move him around? Is that a Bender? Is that a Mo Blackwell? Like LaFowl. Yeah, somewhere like that.
I look at this defense a little differently, right? I think it's built more to complement what Texas has offensively, if that makes sense, right? Yeah. If you're going to get into a game against Texas where it's, everybody's airing the ball out, you're throwing the ball 40 times, I think this is the defense that you'd prefer to have, right? Versus teams are going to have to get up early on Texas if they're going to want to continue to run the rock and play that way. If you do that against Texas, if you want to live and die by the ground game, I don't know if that's going to be enough to maintain and keep up with what Texas has firepower-wise on the offensive side of the ball, right? If you're going to compare and contrast what Texas had a year ago, Texas could stop the run. But when Texas went up 14 or 20 points, we saw those leads evaporate a little bit because teams then started throwing the ball, and that's not where the strength was. If Texas is going to get up again this year, I don't see those leads necessarily being lost as quickly as they were a year ago because obviously, one, the edge game is much stronger, and two, I do think that secondary is in a better spot than what it was a year ago as well. It's going to be a little bit more difficult in my eyes for opponents to throw the ball to come back versus run the ball to stay in the game, if that's making sense.
No, it makes perfect sense, CJ. That's why I think Sark's blueprint to win the SEC is probably going to be tweaked a little bit, because I think teams are going to play ball control against Sark. They're going to do what Washington did. You just want to convert and keep the ball and keep Sark's offense on the sidelines watching and limit the amount of possessions that Sark and that offense have, because you're right. You can only stop them for so long, and then the dam is going to break. But against teams like Washington that play ball control, they keep the football too long, and then all it takes is one mistake by Sark's offense, a turnover or a couple of 3-and-outs, and you're like, damn, where'd that quarter go? We didn't even see the ball. Yeah. I think that's that's how you avoid, like you said, when Sark gets up in games. I think now that's why they want the edge pressure. I was just looking at sacks, and I think like from last season, Texas had 32 sacks last year on 289 pressures. Had 27 sacks in 2022 on 277 pressures. So they improved their conversion rate, pressures to sacks. They went from a 9.7 conversion rate, pressures to sacks in 2022 to basically 11% conversion rate in 2023. That has to go up. The pressures have to be converted into negative plays, into splash plays, into sacks, into tackle for loss, or takeaways. And that's to me, that's going to be the big challenge for them, because you're right, CJ. When you get up 2 scores, you got to take advantage of making a team one-dimensional and predictable. And Texas last year made teams one-dimensional and predictable for like a half and couldn't stop them. Like that. That's why Sark. So that's why he was yelling complimentary football. He's like, guys, complimentary football. To your point, CJ, we get a defense that can take advantage of a one-dimensional opponent. Ooh, it's going to be
The season opener against Colorado State is going to be really interesting, right? Because they don't own the time of possession, Rod. I agree with you. I think that's going to be the blueprint that teams in the SEC utilize to keep the ball out of Sarkisian and Ewers' hands in 2024. It was proven against Washington. I think that the minute that you can limit the game and kind of reduce the opportunities for that offense, you give yourself a better chance. I was looking it up. Colorado State averaged only 26 and a half minutes of time of possession in 2023. That was 128th in the entire country a year ago. Right? There are 5 spots from the bottom. It's going to be the complete opposite of what you're going to see the next week against Michigan. Yep. So Texas is going to get a little taste of both sides of the spectrum here in terms of what teams are going to do to approach the Texas defense right away in the first 2 weeks. And I look at this, and this might be a little deeper dive for next week, Rod, that we'll go through. But what are the styles that Texas will face? Well, we know that Mississippi State with Jeff Lebby and Seth Littrell at Oklahoma, they're going to air it out. We know that they want to throw the ball deep. And I think you're seeing the SEC start to adapt to that more a little bit as well. Obviously, LSU had a big year. Tennessee wants to do that. Lane Kiffin. They got these guys now where it's offense. I think at SEC Media Days, they even mentioned that 12 of the 16 head coaches have an offensive background. So what does that mean for the other schools? Georgia, Kentucky, Texas A&M, obviously Michigan, the teams that want to ground and pound and condense the game. It'll be interesting. I think those first 2 games will give you a blueprint of how to compete against Texas in either aspect of air it out or ground and pound.
Good stuff, guys. All right, getting back to the super chats here. Justin Yarborough hit us up with a super chat. Thank you very much, Justin. We appreciate that. Says Bond will be a top 3 guy in stats, but is this has to be the deepest wide receiver room Texas has ever had. I'm sure Quinn had a few of these guys in 2022.
Yeah, I bet he wishes he did.
He wishes he did. Yeah. Okay, Bond. Yeah, because I'll say this about Isaiah Bond. This is why Isaiah Bond, I do think he will have a critical role within his wide receiver group. I got this stat from Pro Football Focus. The only FBS receiver who had more plays last year where they hit at 20 miles per hour or more than Isaiah Bond last year was Xavier Worthy.
Wow. Are you serious?
Yeah, according to Pro Football Focus.
While with the ball in his hands?
Yeah, according to Football, I'm reading it from Pro Football Focus. The former Alabama receiver had 18 plays in 2023 where he hit at least 20 miles per hour. The only FBS receiver who had more was Xavier Worthy. So essentially, Sark got him a little Xavier Worthy started kid. He's not Xavier Worthy. He's not. Xavier Worthy is way better with the ball in his hands. And I think Worthy is a better route runner overall, more polished route runner overall. And he's top end speed. That's more top end speed. But a guy that can do some of the same things that you had Xavier Worthy doing with the movement routes and some of the deeper cuts. So, but Isaiah Bond, that's what he represents. Thank you, Justin, for the super chat. What do you guys' thoughts about Isaiah Bond? You know, we're not hearing as much, and obviously in the spring game, you didn't see much of him and Quinn in terms of that chemistry. That's something they got to work on. But Isaiah Bond, man, I mean, this guy's got world-class speed. There ain't no doubt about that.
I love it. I love little tidbits like that you're dropping right now. Here's my thought. He had a very, very bad first half in the spring game. And then Sark started him off with a little bubble screen.
Yeah.
A little quick bubble. Start the second half. Then he went back to him again. And then you got to see a little bit of what Isaiah Bond was. I will add this as we talk about him. I talked to some Alabama folks while I was down while I was in Dallas this past week, and asked them specifically about Niblack and Bond. And Bond, according to some Alabama folks, is not necessarily a great pass catcher. Like, he's a good one, but he's not necessarily a great pass catcher. Now, everybody remembers the catch against Auburn to win the game, which was a phenomenal catch and all that stuff. But I'm just telling you, they thought he was inconsistent.
Okay.
Niblack was the one that everybody there said, circle him, because he's a difference maker.
Wow.
Like, I think, and I will say this, Alabama has had so many fast receivers like Isaiah Bond that they are not, look, they've had Jalen Waddle and Jerry Jeudy and whoever, all those guys on the same team. Then they came up with Jamison Williams the very next year in the transfer portal, and he runs like, faster than all those guys. And so my point being, I think they're a little numbed by the speed at receiver at times.
Yep.
Whereas they even witnessed and thought Amari Niblack was kind of a little bit special for them. So that's something I took away as we're talking about this from that meeting in Dallas from talking to a couple of different Alabama folks.
I think this is a good point here from Isaac.
Bond is our at best deep throw. Yeah, and like I said, Sark wants to bring the deep ball back. He does not. He basically replaced the deep ball last year because it wasn't working well enough. It wasn't converting enough of them. He replaced it with a deep curl route.
Yep.
And
comeback.
It was a decent. I mean, you're talking about 18 yards, and people say, "Well, that's not the same as deep route." It's not, but it actually can. It can have the same effect on the defense. Essentially, what you want to do is you want to force those safeties to have to respect, have to keep their vertical assignment. So you don't want them to have to stop their feet or come downhill and start trying to cheat the intermediate routes. And when you run as a DB, I can tell you, when a cornerback is in the corner or safety, when they're defending a receiver, they're usually checking off routes in their head as the receiver is making their way up the field. You get to 8 to 9 yards. All right, we're past the slant. We're past the out. We're past the hitch. You get past, 10 to 12. All right, we're past the curl. We're past the out. We're past the comeback. You start checking off the routes in your head. And when I get to 15, when I get past 15 yards in college, I'm turning my hips and running. This guy's going deep. Because quarterbacks in college don't usually throw 18 or 20-yard curl routes. That's an NFL route. Right, because only NFL quarterbacks make that throw. So I, as a corner, I don't defend ghosts. I'm not going to defend stuff a quarterback a throw he can't make. I'm not going to defend that. There's no point in that. So what Sark did, he threw out that deep curl on them, and that deep curl still forced those safeties to have to respect the vertical, even though they weren't obviously taking them on 9 routes deep down the field. When they complete that, your safety's going to turn his hips at 15 yards, and then that receiver sits it right back down there at 18. Easy completion for Quinn, usually on a play action deep curl. Became one of their most successful concepts last year, and that essentially kept the safeties respecting the vert, even though they really never really completed on them. They still had to respect it.
I agree with you, and I think that's Quinn's best throw.
It is a beautiful throw.
That's his best. I mean, of all the things he does well that are abnormal or higher than average, it's that deep curl. It's the best. I would add this, Rod. Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell could get deep on people. Okay? Yeah. They didn't have the year before when you only had Xavier Worthy. You had Casey Kane trying to run people off deep.
I remember that.
That don't work.
Nope.
Deep curl ain't going to, because he's going to just stay in his hip pocket a little bit. That's real. So I hear you. I think it's personnel related too. When you have two guys on opposite sides that can push that, I agree.
And that's why he's got Wingo. Maybe Wingo is that guy. Wingo.
That's what I'm trying to say to you. Is he the Adonai Mitchell of this group? Yeah,
because if he's one-on-one, I'll take it. Like I'll take him one-on-one against your guy one-on-one and just give him a shot at it. And that's kind of what you have with A.D. Mitchell. Right. This guy that can win one-on-ones, 50-50 balls.
Yes, because he's got the size and he's got the wingspan.
Yeah.
And I think he's actually more physical than Adonai Mitchell. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Can he make the 50-50 catch like Adonai could? I don't know. Yeah. I mean, Adonai had a really, really good downfield ball skill.
His body control was Cirque du Soleil stuff, man. It was really nice. Slick Rick, thank you for the super chat, Slick Rick. Any updates on Trey Moore? Haven't heard much on him. I think he's going to be a stud and captain. El Capitan. Don't sleep on him, Bobby. Your thoughts?
So I heard he had a good summer. I actually spoke with his marketing rep last week. And I heard he had a really good summer, worked really hard, was what I was told. That's from his own side. From the behind the scenes part, I was told they literally just kept him out of the spring game because of a little nick. There was nothing to it. And so he's supposed to be ready to go. I was told, and I followed this on, the only person all spring who gave Kelvin Banks any trouble in pass protection was Trey Moore.
Ooh.
That was the only one that gave him any trouble. And now that means that Barron Sorrell, and I'm not saying they were bad or anything like that. It's just Trey Moore gave Kelvin Banks a little he tweaked him a little bit at times. So
he's a great natural pass rusher, man. He's your best natural pass rusher. Okay, I'll ask you guys this. I'll throw it to you first, CJ. Anybody is it possible anybody on this team has double-digit sacks next year? Is that even a possibility the Texas have? Now, I think they got a guy with that kind of talent on the roster. Trey Moore's done it, obviously. Not at the SEC level, but he's done it. I think Colin Simmons has got that kind of, upside at one point. Do we see it? Last time Texas had a player with double-digit sacks, Charles Amena, who got close. He was 9.5. That was like 2018. Then 2013, you got to go back. Jackson Jeffcoat, baby. Cedric Reed. Yeah, man. 10 seasons? You had 2 DNs with 2 double-digit sacks that same season. Hey, they could go.
Yeah.
My man Okafor in 2012 had 12.5. To my man Oak. Do we have a guy that get double-digit sacks? Is Trey Moore going to be that guy this year?
Ooh, that'll be interesting. If there is a guy, it'll be Trey Moore. I go ahead, Bobby.
I think that here's an odd thing that I think is if they were in the Big 12, maybe.
Okay. You're going coach.
Not going to be as pass happy in the SEC.
Great point.
So that may mitigate some things there. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, Trey Moore would be the obvious one, but I think Ethan Burke gets. I mean, that was one of the things that I thought of, and CJ, bring it back to you. When somebody told me that about Trey Moore giving Kelvin Banks some problems, I actually think like Ethan Burke has a chance to be a really, really good pass rusher. He's got long arms. He's got great ball get off, and
can bend.
Never gives up. I mean, he's got great motor.
Yeah.
Not just the other things. It's all of that combined. And he's got that long reach. I mean, it's just if anybody were to do it this year, it's either Burke or Moore. In my opinion. Those are the 2 quote unquote candidates I would have.
10 sacks is a lot. It just is.
It is. It's a lot.
Like if you look at some of the first team All SEC members this year, the preseason guys, I mean, you don't see 10 sacks across the board for many of them, right? Landon Jackson, 6.5 sacks. Princely Uman-Milan, 8 sacks. Jared Ivey on the same edge at Ole Miss. Obviously, Princely was at Florida. Jared Ivey only had about 8.5 as well. So those top-end elite guys that are getting recognized in the SEC, 10 sacks is it's a tough thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
No, you're right about that.
They've had some talented edge rushers come through. Joseph Asai, Charles Minihue. These guys, Rod, you just mentioned it, haven't done it since 2013.
Yeah.
Hey, Rod, one more thing I want to share with you before we get going today. Most impressive looking dude at SEC Media Days.
Oh,
hands down. Not close, in my opinion. Deion Walker, defensive lineman from
the D tackle, Kentucky.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
He's built he's built differently. Like he's Cam Williams on defense.
That's a great
CJ, you saw him?
Yeah. He
is built thick and he is tall and his arms are long. And you're just like, and he's got a barrel chest. I mean, he literally looks like he swallowed an oak barrel. I mean, that was by far. I mean, so if anybody sees him this year and wonders why that guy's whipping somebody's, what? I mean, he's gonna. That dude's gonna play. He looked a little bit like Albert Hainsworth to me.
Oh, wow! That's
who he looked. I mean, Albert Hainsworth was like 6'5", 305 pounds, and he was 16 years old. This guy's like 5 years old. I mean, I'm just telling you, that's who he looked like to me.
Wow. Oh man, and he's projected to be a first round pick. So he's gonna be a low. It's crazy. It reminds me that's just a story that Bill Belichick, when he used to go to the combine back in the day, he would take the coaches and they would watch the D-line drills, and he would take the coaches they would sit behind them in drills, like the D linemen, whether it be the 40 or whatever. He would want to sit behind them, and all the other coaches are they're at the end of the drill, right? They want to see how the guys finish. And he was asking, like, why for the D linemen you always come to sit behind the guys in the drills? And honestly, Bill Belichick, true story, they say, I want to see their rear end. I want to see their butt because I want a huge, big butt in front of my linebackers. And he's kind of like what you just, he basically will see a dude and go, oh, now look at that big rear end right there. That's the guy I want in a 3-point stance in front of my middle linebacker right there. And that's got him. So he would go looking at for Hainsworth, somebody like that, that's got a lot of junk in the trunk. And then honestly, for Bill Belichick, that's all he needs to know. Yeah. All right. So getting back to some of the super chats here. UT Boy wants to know. UT Boy throwing out there. Thank you, UT Boy. Happy birthday to you for sure. Bond dropped the third most footballs in the SEC last year. Let that sink in.
Maybe.
Man, UT Boy bringing the receipts. Sark don't like a lot of drops. I will say that, unless you're Xavier Worthy. But then he gets a pass.
Neither does Bobby Burton or C.J. Vogel or Rod Babers. Drops they're tough because you only get so many opportunities.
Exactly.
Pro Football Focus, I was looking it up earlier, only gave him only credited him for 2 drops in 2023. I know it's Pro Football Focus and everybody has their opinion there. Drop stats in college football are pretty difficult to come across, I will admit, though.
That's true.
Not easy avenue to go down there, but I don't know. The spring game certainly wasn't a strong showing of.
That's true.
In the first half, he made a catch in the second half that was terrific.
The leaping catch over the middle that you're referencing, that made up for a couple. The diving catch in the end zone that hit the numbers, that was a tough one.
Right. You get my point, right? It's like he could be one of those guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Oscar Elizondo, thank you very much for the super chat, Oscar. We appreciate that. I got to be honest. I have deep concerns for the defense. From linebacker depth to D-line size to poor coverage. How valid is it to say I'm concerned? It is valid. You're losing to Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy is huge. That was the best D-tackle duo in college football. And you lost those guys. Texas had the best defense in the country last year with a light box. That's fewer defenders than they have blockers. Well, it's because you had the best D-tackle duo that demanded a double team consistently so you could play with a lighter box. They won't be able to do that this year. They may have to devote an extra defender in there to help stop the run unless the guys they brought in via the transfer portal D-tackle position are stout and formidable. Also, the cornerback spot, Saban mentioned it, opposite Malik Muhammad. Yeah, I would say if that doesn't work out, though, there's solutions. Right? Let's say Javion Cole and Gavin Holmes, worst case scenario, neither one of them work out, and they're both, just bad in coverage and they're a liability. You can always move Jadae Barron out there, and you can always move Makuba to nickel, or Jalen Gilbo can step up and play nickel because I've heard Sark very complimentary of him this offseason. And so you like your safeties. You got Tav, who's a starter. Derek Williams is a star. So you got options. I think ultimately you can end up playing a big nickel package if Javion Cole and Gavin Holmes will work out. I think one of them will work out, by the way, for you. And linebacker depth, yeah, that's a concern. Like Bobby said, Michigan's going to test 2 of these. Michigan's going to test that interior D-line, and they're going to test that linebacker depth because they come in power right at you, hardball, bully ball football. And so we'll know early on if that interior D-line and linebacker position is going to be a problem. You'll know
they'll run 2 and 3 tight ends at Texas.
Yeah, exactly. Old school. They run a fullback. I have a fullback out there against Texas. Yeah, no doubt.
Hey, I almost forgot this, and I know we're running late on time. One other, I would say, wild card for 10 sacks, Alfred Collins.
Ooh.
And I'm going to tell you, y'all know how I try to pick 1 or 2 games a week to go back and watch. Alfred Collins played really well against Texas Tech. I watched Texas Tech today. I think he had 3 pressures. He was playing better later in last year. And so I don't think he's going to get 10 sacks. Do I think he can get 6, 7? I do. So
yeah, that'd be huge.
Keep an eye on him.
He was actually one of your better pass rushers last year. It's just, can he be an every down defender? But as a pass rusher, Alfred Collins, actually, his numbers, if you extrapolate, they're pretty elite as a pass rusher. All right, good stuff there. That's Anish. Thank you very much, Anish, for the super chat here. Similarly to O-line and running back, do y'all think we can get to a point where we don't go to the portal for wide receiver anymore? Well, that's a good question. CJ, I'll throw it out to you. Do you want?
I think that's the hope, right?
Okay.
You've seen Texas go out and recruit some of the best wide receivers in the country this cycle. They took 4 a year ago. You'd like to not have to go out there and and bring in newcomers for a year or two maximum via the portal. You want these guys to be in your program for 3, 4, potentially 5 years for a few. I do think that's the ultimate goal. Obviously, last year with the departures, you saw a couple injuries that led to eventual departures as well to the NFL as well. So I think it was more an anomaly a year ago. Just kind of getting that room to look like what Sarkisian wants it to look like was the ultimate goal. It just took a little bit of time to do that. Right now, I think with the guys in the room moving forward, especially some of the young cats, the need will diminish a little bit to go out to the portal every offseason.
All right. Thank you for that, CJ. All right. Before we get out of here, we'll take like 2 more questions before we're done officially. We got like 5 more minutes left in the show. Bobby, please tell the folks about our fantastic sponsor, your good friend, Joe Brown.
Yeah, like the recruiting business, the mortgage industry also has a star rating system. And Joe Brown, he's a 5-star. He has more than 3 decades of experience helping more than 4,000 families to finance homes and investment properties. Joe's a lifelong Longhorn fan with 2 degrees from the University of Texas and has helped many former UT athletes and professors with their real estate financing. He's also a proud U.S. Navy veteran and is committed to serving his fellow vets with no down payment VA loans up to $2 million. And he works with Southside Bank, which has been based in Texas for more than 60 years, but can also do mortgage loans in most other states. Give Joe a call, 512-663-4744. If you're looking for a mortgage, that's 512-663-4744. Joe Brown, your veteran mortgage professional.
All right, thank you very much, Bobby, and thanks to Joe Brown for sponsoring our Sunday night live stream. Couple of questions before we wrap it up here. Kelly _horns up. I think this is a good question. Rod, do you expect PK and Nansen to have some surprises for Michigan to help control Michigan's run game? Maybe schematics, run blitz. That is a good one. We'll do obviously a breakdown about this before the game, the week of. But I do expect Johnny Nansen to have an influence on PK coverage-wise. Nobody in the Power 5 played more single high coverages, cover 3 mostly, than Arizona. That allowed them to put an extra defender down into the box. I think you're going to see more of that against Michigan. Yes, you will see run blitzes because Johnny Nansen loves to run blitz, wants to try to make plays in the backfield before they get a downhill running game going. And when against Michigan, that's what you want to do. Stop them in the back before they get running downhill. Also, you'll see more exotic fronts, right? At Arizona, he played, you saw the 4-3, you saw a 3-4, you saw him with a nickel. They ran a flex, they ran the Joker package, they ran a penny package, dollar package. Oh, Johnny Nansen going to bring all of that. I guarantee you. So there will be, I think, some exotics, as I call them, which are not staples of PK that I think Johnny Nansen is going to bring to the table. Maybe I think more so will help the pass defense, but I think for Michigan, what I'm really hoping is, and I think Sark's already on it, the Scotty Hazelton hire, the former Michigan State defensive coordinator. Guys, he was a Michigan State defensive coordinator for like 4 years. So I guarantee you that Sark's got him on a special assignment. Michigan. You already got a file in the database on them. I need you to sit in a dark room for 2 months and let me know what you got when you come out of there. I guarantee that's what Scotty Hazelton's doing on campus right now. Sark won't tell you that, but that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. All right. Thank you very much for the question there. Sorry, go ahead.
Real quick, if I could just toss in a quick note. Jacob Manu, the middle linebacker for Arizona a year ago, had 6 sacks. You don't see that too often from middle linebackers, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's one way I think Nansen can have his fingerprints implemented on this Texas defense. It's with an Anthony Hill or a David Benda, kind of disguising those middle linebacker blitzes that we've liked to see Texas thrown in at times. I would like to see a few more against Washington, to be completely honest, but this is something that I think Texas and Johnny Nansen will reap benefits of with him now on the staff, and Anthony Hill with the kind of athleticism that he brings to the table there.
All right. Thank you there for CJ. I appreciate that nugget. Good stuff there. All right, gentlemen. With something else that, we were talking about the deep ball coming back, and I've seen this on my timeline a lot. I know you guys probably have. The video of one Patrick Mahomes to Xavier Worthy. Have we seen this connection? I don't know how the hell. Like, here it is right here to give Longhorn fans a little preview, a little tease. Look at this dude. Look at him falling away to his left and delivers that damn ball on the money to Xavier Worthy. I don't even know how far that was. Was that 40, 50 yards down the field? Where was that at?
What a throw.
Look at Travis Kelce there. Thanks to the Kansas City Sports Network, I guess. for showing that. Worthy got deep there. I think that we're going to see that a lot, man.
Yep.
What a throw.
I think we're getting ready to see that a lot. As long as Xavier stays healthy and Patrick Mahomes stays healthy, that is a combo made in heaven.
I'm so upset.
I mean, that is in Andy Reid's heaven, by the way. I mean, that's
I can't believe I'm a Texans fan. So, like, come on. The rest of the AFC, how did y'all let that happen, man? Did y'all know he was the perfect, compatible complement to Mahomes in the deep ball? And by the way, that offense has been boring the last 2 years because they've taken the deep ball away from him. His average touchdown pass is less than 7 yards. Average touchdown pass. His average depth of target is at a career low right now. They about to start going back downtown, though. Chicks dig the long ball. And no doubt about that. All right, gentlemen. Tomorrow, coffee and football. What you got for the people coming up, Bobby?
We got coffee and football. Blake Monroe is back along with Jerry Hamilton and myself. Then we also have CJ and you and Rod, as well as Coach Shipley with the winning drive. We have some recruiting news and notes coming up on Texas football in the morning as well. We're talking a little bit about Jonah Williams, the defensive back athlete out of Galveston Ball, as well as San Antonio Alamo Heights athlete Michael Terry, one of the top prospects in the country. Both of those guys expected to be in Austin on Thursday of this coming week.
All right. Thank you for that. Remember tomorrow, we got you covered here on the On Texas Football channel. I want to thank our sponsor once again. Thank Joe Brown for sponsoring the Sunday night live stream. And also thanks to Matthew behind the scenes, guys. He is the real MVP. We appreciate all your super chats as well. You guys were great. UT boy, happy birthday, UT boy. Make it the best one yet. No doubt about it. Thank you guys for all your support. Thank you guys for watching, participating. For CJ Vogel, for Bobby Burton, for myself. Join us tomorrow, same time, same channel. Until then, hook 'em horns.